America's workforce. Its strength is our nation's success. Join Ronnie Spellman on I Build America podcast as we explore innovative solutions and inspiring stories from leaders and workers shaping America. Discover actionable insights to build a motivated workforce.
Welcome to the I Build America podcast. We have as our guest Eric Shepard. Eric, you're the Executive Director for the Foundation for Talent Transformation.
That's right.
I am intrigued by your background and what you're doing in the organization you've created now. And then before that, you worked in the private sector. So your workforce development comes from two different sides. On the employer side, in building an organization that you were CEO of for 20 plus years, and now on the nonprofit side. Tell us what you're doing in your nonprofit business. And between then, you wrote a book, which kind of led to your nonprofit.
Well, let me start with the book, because I think that's kind of helps understand the motivation. So after working in the for-profit sector for 20 plus years, I had developed a lot of understanding about assessments, assessing knowledge, skills, abilities, emotions, behaviors. And so rather than having people keep asking me questions about this, I really wanted to close the chapter on that for-profit work and move on to something at the time I didn't know what. And so I thought writing this book, describing everything I knew, and putting in the context of the fourth industrial revolution. So I wrote the book in 2020. It was published in 2020. And it recognizes that there's a lot changing, which we all know. Sure. Even in the last 6 months of the year, we've seen so much change, but we were kind of more predicting it back then in 2020. We knew robotics, we knew automation, we knew AI. We hadn't really realized the impact of generative AI,
right?
But we knew all of these technologies were going to disrupt the workplace and disrupt the way people thought about work. And there was going to be a number of people that became irritated and angry by that because there was almost a social contract. You know, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to go to college, I'm going to go to work, and then I'm going to retire and live happily ever after. But then all of a sudden, technology came along, disrupted that. And so the book delves into that, how we deal with change, and then how we assess different things. So after closing that chapter of writing the book, realized that there was a need out there for a foundation to focus on helping people understand themselves and others,
right,
and bring the solution to where they were. So we have an app, and the app basically provides assessments, provides ways to help people understand their emotional intelligence.
So let's do this, if you don't mind. Let's jump back first and then come back to the foundation.
Okay.
The organization that you created, why did you create it? The organization you're CEO for, how was it founded? What was the purpose of it? And because that, I think, also is what led to the book. But I'd love to know more and have people understand what you developed from a business perspective.
Gotcha. So, the for-profit business, at the time, going back in the 80s, so a long time before you were born, I'm sure, I was in the tech business doing various things in sales support. I ran a software company out of California and then Connecticut. And realized one of my core competencies was representing overseas technologies here in the United States.
Okay.
So I worked out how to do that. And there's a very interesting company I'd bumped into. It's called Question Mark. It was very small at the time, a couple of employees. And we built revenues in North and South America. We were selling the product to the military, Department of Defense, Department of Education, to colleges, universities, big banks, big insurance companies, and they would use it for a variety of reasons. So the software would help them test the skills and behaviors of their employees.
Interesting.
So after doing that for 20 years, I kind of developed an understanding of what the needs are of assessments and what the benefits are. And
so you worked in a unique sliver then of the workforce development, and it was, so in organizations I've had human resources report up to me, and as a part of that whole program within businesses and making the business successful was the talent development side of it.
Right.
So your assessment was used to help them figure out how to make sure people are successful in their business, sounds like.
A lot of that, and also regulatory compliance would be a big
Sure.
thing. So regulatory compliance is unique to each individual business.
Right.
So if you were teaching common skills like Microsoft Word or Excel or Office 365 or something, that you could teach those at school because everybody could do with those kind of skills. But when you get to regulatory compliance, then it's a bit different.
Okay.
Or if you're thinking about the military, flying an F-22, they're not going to teach you how to do that in school. So
Right,
you need
right.
specific learning
Specialized.
and testing specialized. Yeah.
So you spent several years then helping organizations figure out that element of the whole workforce development, workforce improvement, skill training.
Yeah.
And then decided that you were going to step back. And then you wrote the book so that you can tell everyone about those 20 plus years in the industry and how you achieved what you achieved. And then decided to create the foundation.
Yeah, there wasn't so much saying what I'd achieved. It wasn't really a biography. It was
But the
saying,
concepts.
yeah, exactly. So many people were misusing some terms like what is a certification test, or
Okay.
what is a formative quiz, or what is a summative assessment. People were often confusing terms, and it was like, let me just put this down and explain. We developed something called the Talent Transformation Pyramid. And this helped people understand hard skills, soft skills, where psychological safety fit into the pyramid, where tools and information would fit into the pyramid, and then how that would then transpose into competencies to be competent for a role in order to perform in that role.
And you started doing this back in the 80s?
The testing assessment was early 90s.
Okay, that is incredible. Because you're right, so much in technology is shifted and changed. And like you, I was doing assessments back in the early 2000s as well at organizations and making sure we found a way to help. For us, it was helping people learn to communicate within the organization with one another. And through those communication channels, how to partner and drive results between departments.
Right.
And so it's amazing that you saw that there was an issue in just the usage of terminology that prevented people from achieving their specific goals.
That's right.
That's really fascinating.
Yeah. Often people would say, oh, we just want to test.
Yes.
Well, what is it that you want to test? What's the purpose of the test? Do you want to give them a certificate at the end? Do you want to get a qualification? You want to give them a license? Or do you just want to let them know where they are so they can, knowing where they are, they can build to where they want?
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. So the book comes out.
Yep.
And you tell people what you know.
Yeah.
And then you decided to create the foundation.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the reason I decided to step down from the CEO role is the last 2 years I had done 300 nights a year in hotels.
Oh, wow.
And it was getting weary. And so that was the motivation to step down. After writing the book, I was reflecting on what society was going to look like with all of this automation and AI. Also seeing how young adults particularly were using their devices and getting kind of hooked into their devices, which was meaning they weren't having any physical play, or physical play was drifting away. The great thing about physically being with people is that if you disagree, you have to work it out.
Exactly.
But if you're online and you disagree with someone, you can either have a flame attack or you can just block them, and that's it.
Right.
So you don't develop those conflict handling skills. Also, you can tend to live in an echo chamber. So the more you click on things, the more that indicates that this is what your preferences are. And then it's a business of getting those clicks. So they'll put extreme things in front of you, or passive things in front of you just to keep your attention. But that tends to lead you into that echo chamber. So there was a witch's brew that was developing, where we were going to have a disengaged youth. And we were going to have disgruntled people in mid-career.
Right.
I thought, well, one thing that's going to be important in the future of work is that people can communicate, they can collaborate, that they do have to resolve conflicts. People are not always going to have to agree. We're going to have to work out how to do that. So what's the foundation for that? Well, the foundation for that is learning the skills, like conflict handling skills, emotional intelligence, your personal values, like what's my purpose? What do I actually value? Because that will set me on a course. What are my career interests?
So from a foundation services perspective, who is your client? And then what service do you help them, or what solution do you help them achieve?
Yeah. So our client, we always think, is the individual that is trying to develop their skills.
Okay.
So
you're a direct service provider to those clients versus, for instance, working with a workforce solutions board to help them implement some kind of model. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Now, the workforce development professionals recommend our tools because the individual can take their device with the app installed. They can take it home and work on that 24 hours a day.
Okay.
So they can take the quizzes. And also when they're dealing with a case manager, it's useful to have a healthy conversation after someone's taken a quiz.
Right.
So if the case manager recognizes that someone's very aggressive, it's sometimes difficult to point out saying, dude, you're very aggressive. This isn't going to work well in an interview. So let's have you take like an emotional intelligence quiz so you could just learn about that. Then the next time you come in, we can have a conversation about that.
Now, so I was going to say this is kind of unique. So you have kind of the assessment of the individual, but the ultimate goal, it appears, is to get them work ready by understanding how they operate.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. When they can recognize how they operate, then they can work out how to choose the right kind of career for them, the right kind of job, the right kind of learning experiences.
Yes.
And most importantly, they can get along with others to actually thrive personally and professionally.
Right. Did you develop and build the software? What's the background on how you achieve the assessment?
So we have about 10 people in the development team.
You do? In-house?
In-house developers,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow.
And that goes from AI people through user interface design people through quality assurance people. So also we have psychometricians to make sure that the assessments are valid and reliable. So it's
that's a huge investment, which is why I ask. I've been at technology companies, and having in-house software programmers, costly.
Yeah. But the net result is something that's really looking good. The latest addition we're adding is voice. So you get you do the quiz, you get a report, but then you can ask it with text in AI just to say, hey, what job should I get? Or how do I resolve this conflict with my partner? Or who really needs to put the trash out? Whatever the thing is, it's like a companion.
Right.
And you can do that with text now.
Okay.
By the end of the month, we'll have a voice. So it's just like talking to a friend on the phone. Right. So you're saying, I got a terrible boss. They keep asking me to actually turn up to work on time and do things, and I'm objecting to that. What should I do? And then there'll be a voice that comes back and says, maybe that's you want to think about it. Yeah.
It's always interesting and complicated to ask someone about competing products. But I'm not familiar enough with your industry to know if there are other similar services, because I think that's what you're doing seems really novel and valuable.
Yeah.
Is there something that's already in the marketplace that's similar, without mentioning them by name, but what kind of tools are out there like this?
Yeah. So there are tools.
Are you creating a new segment
I think we are. We're certainly, we see ourselves distinct from other sectors. One, because of our mission, 501(c) nonprofit focused on trying to help people. It's different than maybe mental health. So there's mental health applications out there. I think there's like 24,000 mental health.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's staggering. But all of those are for fee.
Okay.
And but a lot of the challenges in the world are not necessarily mental health. It's helping people understand their purpose and what they really want to do, and then get them into the right kind of role, and then they'll be able to thrive personally and professionally. I'm not saying there aren't mental health issues. There are, but not everybody needs a mental health app.
Now, how are you getting the word out about your operation and what you provide as a service?
Well, we have a great partnership with Microsoft and Google.
Oh, fantastic.
And also with OpenAI.
Okay.
And they are all being very supportive, both in advertising. So that's a main thing that helps us with getting.
And for those listening or watching, OpenAI is the company that created the
ChatGPT.
There you go. Yes.
I know that.
So that's a great partnership.
Yeah, that's right.
And ChatGPT has just grown so much in its usage.
Yeah. they've done a great job. It's very surprising, and we use it as an in-house tool to help us develop the marketing materials and email messages and things. So it's a huge time saver for us. But we're using a back-end system to do using their voice systems, which is much more complex. The secret of good apps is to make it look and feel just easy.
Right.
But at the back end, there's a lot of very smart technology, both with OpenAI and some of that.
So structurally, from a goal perspective, you work and your services provided to the individual.
Yep.
But you are working with the workforce development partners to make the system available to those individuals.
That's right. Yeah.
How are you working with those organizations? What does it look like as you work with them across the country? So if someone is listening or watching the program, what do they do?
Yep.
One, to find you, but two, to engage with you and to try to implement it within their operation.
Yeah. So find us, www.talenttransformation.com. And in there's a section on working with workforce development. They can schedule a call so we can help them understand the programs. The first step is often the coaches on the front line, the case managers, just start recommending it. As the people, as their clients are responding, saying, this looks good, then they'll have more train-the-trainer kind of sessions. So they'll roll it out to the full organization so all the case managers have access to it. And then some will say, we want to issue vouchers for certain features of the product because that will extend it. So then we provide vouchers.
Now, I presume that you're getting some fantastic analytics.
We are.
From the system. What does that look like? How do you help not only your organization analyze what's happening around all of your clients and around the country, but how do you help maybe a workforce development group understand the people that are being served, what you're seeing from a talent transformation or a talent development standpoint?
Yeah.
What kind of data you're looking at?
Yeah. So a lot of the data is around the kinds of assessments they're taking, the kind of results they're getting, and we geofence. So we'll say, okay, in Michigan, what does it look like in Michigan? Typically, we're seeing most of our audience is in the 16 to 28 age range.
Okay.
It does go up all the way to 70, but it's, the main audience is there. And in the earlier 16, 18 kind of, it's around career interest. What am I going to do? Kind of interest. Then people look more at what's my purpose. So then they're looking at values. How do I define my purpose? What am I here for? Those kind of things. And then other people, I think, are driven by an incident. So they maybe have a conflict at work, and then they go, "Oh, let me learn about conflict handling."
And that's kind of neat. Are you able to report out on trends? So let's say that you have the system deployed in any state, Ohio.
Yeah.
And as you start to see people taking the assessments, you might see a trend that maybe in this market, people need more of this kind of support, or they have more of this kind of aptitude.
Yeah.
And then you might be able to see something happening from one region to the other region of the U.S., I presume.
Yeah.
As you look
That's a great idea. We don't do it right now. Thank you, Ronnie. We're going to do that now. I love it.
Well, it's just, I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, how would Ronnie deploy and implement this tool? Because I love how technology can help you really refine your ability to better manage your operation. In this case, a workforce development team. How do you understand the people that are coming into your office?
That's right.
And how do you, and part of that understanding is, how do we make sure that we're finding the right fit for them? So what companies do we need to target? If our people tend to have this kind of interest in this region, how do we find the right jobs that fulfill that interest, or the right job that fulfills their capabilities?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And we want to make sure that we're putting them into programs where they're generally staying in the state. We don't want to say, oh, you need to be a nuclear engineer. We don't have any of those jobs. But why don't you go around the corner?
Right.
Just one thing about comparisons I just want to mention. I think at the individual level and also workforce development level, it's not always good to compare yourself to others.
Sure.
Because
I agree.
But comparing yourself to your future self,
correct,
that's a very motivating thing. So you say, okay, I'm here now, I'm in a mess, whatever it is, but I want to be here. So how do I get from here to there? Or if we're comparing us, where if I compared myself to a basketball player and I wish I could play basketball,
right.
I'm not.
Tell me more about the evolution. What led you to that comment and conclusion? I think that's really fascinating. I think back through my K through 12 years and even college, I wasn't as much worried about everyone else's grades. I kept thinking, how do I continue to improve what I'm learning and demonstrate my capabilities based on my scores? So I find that premise really interesting. I hadn't thought about that in a few years, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I think one, I suspect you had a great family, great support structure that helped to encourage you focus on the right things.
Right.
I think the other dynamic that's changed, and so other people weren't as lucky for that. The other thing is, so the apps are encouraging us to compare ourselves to others. So when we're on Instagram or TikTok or any other of these social media platforms, there's encouragement, and it's driving up, teen depression.
Right.
And so that's why I would encourage people to compare themselves to their future self, not someone else, because that's their thing. You've got to do your thing.
And that is, it's, so I'm kind of pausing. If you're listening on the audio version and versus watching, I'm slightly paused because there's been so much conversation around social media, and a lot of the images that people see on social media are just images. Even for the people that you're watching, that's not really their real person.
Right.
But people do find themselves trying to compare them to this image of the person that they might be seeing on social media.
Yeah.
And you're right, that can be a little complicated, if not depressing.
Yeah.
Because you look at yourself and you think, man, I'm not experiencing the same level of whatever these other person that I'm watching experiencing. So it sounds like you're trying to get people to look more internally and focus on your own internal self-development.
That's right. That's right.
And then grow from there.
That's right.
All right, that's really fascinating. That's kind of a revelation to me, particularly on the workforce development side, and how we teach people to really focus on where they want to go versus where they think everyone else is, which is not completely an accurate picture of everyone else.
That's right.
Interesting.
Yeah. I went from 16, 17-year-old sleeping in my car through to running a multinational, multi-dollar business. And so, I've seen the steps along the way. And now looking to the future and saying, what could I be, is much healthier than getting stuck where you are, or looking at someone else saying, oh, they're bigger and better than me. Why don't I be like that?
And that's just throwing us on. I know we're nearing our time. Can you tell me about that? So you were literally sleeping in your car as a teenager?
Not for too long.
Okay.
Because it wasn't like a weeks on end. But my parents had decided to move, and I didn't want to move to where they wanted to go. It was in a depressed city, not Sheffield, but Manchester, and near Manchester. And at the time, it was a depressed area. I didn't want to go there. I tried to make it in my own in London. Right. And what I think that gave me, Ronnie, was this. And so I ended up struggling. I was trying to study and trying to earn money, and ended up sleeping in my car for a while. And then kindly, my sister took me in.
Okay.
She didn't realize I was in a mess, but she took me in. And then a month or two later, I managed to find a place I could afford. But what that taught me was, it doesn't matter where you are, you can dig yourself out, and you can, you've got to have that internal strength and resilience to actually make it. There isn't going to be some fairy godmother come and save you, You're in this for yourself.
Now, Eric, that's an incredible story. Maybe one day we can get back together to talk about that journey, because there's so many people. We just spoke about social media. They see the picture on social media,
right,
and they don't realize that even an Eric in an earlier stage had a struggle before you became CEO. You weren't born as the CEO of a company, but there's a journey there. And if they are in that point where you were at some point, where they're sleeping in their car, there's a path out.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity for them to become the CEO.
Right.
But they have to work at it, right? Yeah. They have to work hard. You can't just give up on that journey.
I think the other lesson there, Ronnie, is you don't have to be a CEO to have a great life.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you there.
I told you the 300 nights a year. That's not particularly pleasant. There's much better ways to enjoy life. So you got to find your own path through your values and your interests, etc.
Absolutely. Eric, this has been a delightful conversation.
I agree.
As we work to try to expose people to workforce development concepts, successes, options and opportunities, innovations in workforce development. Not only your personal journey, but what you're now doing through the foundation is just incredible.
Thank you.
So I'm glad that you were able to join us, and I'd encourage anyone to discover more in looking at your website and researching and figure out if this is a good option for them, both as an individual, but also as an organization in workforce development.
Yeah.
How do they offer this service to help those individuals looking to grow their careers?
That's right.
I appreciate you joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
Thanks for joining us on the I Build America podcast, where we're trying to move the needle, share stories like Eric, and get people involved in the whole workforce development ecosystem and creating opportunities for people. Thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you for listening to the I Build America podcast. Please subscribe, share, and comment, and be sure to join us next time for more insights and inspiring conversations on building a powerful American workforce. I Build America, building workforce success one podcast at a time.